Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be Fearless podcast. I'm Shaurya, and I have with me here Subho. He's the co-founder of Appknox. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Shaurya, for having me. Absolutely.
So, Subho, before we start, can you tell a little bit about, what Appknox is and what Appknox does?
Sure. So Appknox is into mobile app security. We kind of figure out all the application security which is specific to mobile. We figure out security issues in those by doing SAST, DAST, API analysis, as well as we do SBOM analysis and all of those on top of a binary of the mobile app. So that's what we do. We have been running Appknox for past 10 years now. We have been listed in Gartner as well as one of the leading security vendor in mobile app security. So yeah, that's a brief introduction about what I do. Yeah.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about your journey, how the whole idea about Appknox came to you and, how does the journey start? I'm sure like a lot of people would be inspired by you. So
Sure. So my mobile security journey is almost 13 years now, right? So 13 years ago, when I was in my college, the first Google G1 phone came out,
right.
And I was trying to figure out how we can get data or how I can spy on messages on my friend's phone, and that's how it all started.
Right.
One of the very first spyware based out of India was made by me, and then I released a framework called Android Framework for Exploitation. Got to give a talk about that in Black Hat and different other conferences, as well as DEF CON about those. That's how the journey began. And in my corporate world, I was also working on mobile security, and I decided that, hey, why not create a company to actually, instead of hacking into those applications, how can I actually fix it? So that was the intention of starting Appknox, and that's how I started Appknox. So,
That's so great. So, often when hackers like release their open source, tools, or they release like a sort of a spyware or, any kind of malicious tool, there's always, people often see it like a double-edged sword because they're like, it might happen that attackers like start using that as well. So what are your views about that?
Absolutely. Knowledge is always there, right? You can use the knowledge for greater good or for bad purposes as well, right? So the first framework which I released, which was Android Framework for Exploitation, you can basically inject malicious pieces of code inside the mobile app, and that seems offensive, right? It's more of on the offensive side, but the defensive side was to actually go ahead and try to hack into the application and figure out what are the flaws and report it back to the company before it is exploited out in the wild. So my views is, people can do good as well as bad on both, but it is imperative and very, very important for people to understand how the attack is happening and how do you actually go ahead and stop it from happening. So that's what my view is. So you can't stop being offensive, but you need to be really, really good and defensive, because attacker just needs one excuse.
That's true.
For defenders, you need to cover all your bases. So that's a more interesting journey, I would say, for me, at least. Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, when Appknox started, the whole, the mobile as a field was also progressing.
Yeah.
So, how would you summarize the whole mobile security landscape that has changed over, the whole trend, how it has evolved like over the past 10 years?
Yeah, I think it has evolved a long way. I think 13 years from now, mobile was the most emerging market. Mobile apps started coming almost 10 years ago. It became very popular. And then the drive towards digital innovation and going towards a digital journey for each company started happening. Then we started seeing companies coming up with not website but just mobile apps.
Right.
Companies like Snapchat and others,
Yeah.
they're like, we don't have a website to actually view it. We just have a mobile app to do it.
Yeah.
And that actually took off. And then highly regulated industries like banks, they started focusing more on mobile apps. And now you can actually open up an account using a mobile app. You don't need to visit a branch.
Yeah.
And you can't do that in the web interface. Most of the banks, they are using mobile as a way to opening up an account. So I think the journey has been quite transformational.
Yeah.
Starting from educating the users that, hey, you don't need a laptop to actually access things,
Yeah.
to mobile becoming a really personal device for you. All your credit card information, everything, very personal information
Yes.
is stored in a phone. So yeah, it has gone through that whole journey, I would say. So yeah, it's completely transformational as of now. And right now, mobile is the interface for everything else,
That's
like
correct.
your AI or your home automation, IoT. It interfaces with your mobile, and that's how you do it. And that's how the next couple of journey is gonna be like. That's what I predict. So.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Makes sense. So, talking like not specifically about like mobile app security, but let's take a broader look at things and let's
Sure.
talk about mobile security in general.
Sure.
So, if you look back like few years back, the whole concept of big enterprises was that they were actually asking people to have like a company issued phone.
Right.
And most of the apps and the access was actually happening through that.
Right.
But nowadays, the bring your own device thing is becoming quite common. And with mobile, it's like, literally everyone is bringing their own devices.
Yeah.
So what do you think, is there going to be a shift in, the whole, the attack scape with, people bringing their own phones to the office network? What are your views about that?
Definitely. I think it increases more of an attack surface.
Yeah.
So let's say this is a portable device,
Yeah.
which people can carry in their pockets.
Yes.
Right? Unlike in laptop.
Right.
And it becomes really difficult for big organizations to say don't bring your mobile phone because it's a communication device as well.
True.
So the only thing which the companies can do is impose bring your own device kind of a model where you implement policies in the devices.
Yes.
Right? And this actually leapfrogged during the COVID times because
Yeah, that's correct.
because you're not coming to your office, physical office, and you are using your own laptop or your own device to access your office email.
Yeah.
So that kind of leapfrogged then.
Yeah.
3 years down the line, I think it has gone to a level where it is a known fact that you're going to get your mobile phone in your environment, and that's going to happen.
Yes.
And hence the security for getting those devices inside your perimeter has also evolved over
Yes.
time. BYOD companies before were more focused on apps,
Right.
and now the focus has shifted towards the device itself.
Yes.
It's no more just the app, but also the device as well.
Yeah.
And that's what we have started seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk about Google or Apple, they have started their own MDM way of implementing, bringing your own device. The OEMs themselves are implementing it in the device itself, and that's how the change is.
Yeah.
So,
It's quite interesting to see, how the whole attack surface is sort of increased because of these changes in the whole, the way people are working in the office. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So, I would also want to ask you that, sometimes like businesses, they often consider security as their second preference. Like, they think like it's going to stop them from going ahead and, some sort of obstruction to their actual operations. And they often consider it as, a second check, probably for just clearing the compliance. So what are your views about this?
Yeah, I think that's always been the case, right?
Yeah.
But there are a few things which have started happening now,
Yeah.
right? These are like DevSecOps,
Yes.
right? Trying to implement security way earlier during the development time or even in the planning stages, right?
Right.
This kind of helps in making the security as not an afterthought, but more of an integrated process in your workflow.
Yeah.
So I completely understand now. I run a company, right? And I completely understand that I need to push out features as soon as possible.
Yes.
Right? Go to market is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're not making money, it's okay, right?
Yes.
So, but also this should also be understood that if you take security as an afterthought, the cost of fixing those issues also goes way up.
Yeah.
Right? If a thing has gone outside in production, for you to fix that, the cost is so up that, it's pretty much really, really costly to fix those mistakes.
Yeah.
So people started understanding that.
Yes.
And I think the world is going towards the DevSecOps kind of a way where you're trying to detect even before, or you're trying to plan security also in your stages.
Yes.
There are a lot of companies doing DevSecOps in terms of figuring out issues while you're coding and trying not the code to go out in production before there are issues which is there. So I think, there's a lot of mind shift change which happened.
Yes.
And it's going in a good direction, I would say.
That's good to hear. And actually, I've brought up a very good point about DevSecOps, and I feel like it's something that most organizations should look at, given the fact, as a security engineer, when you code something, you often also think about how an attacker would try to get in the system. But as a normal developer, you might not think about it.
Absolutely, because a normal developer are more focused on creating their feature.
Yes.
And the good thing is I'm a developer as well.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand the developer mindset.
Yes.
It's like whatever you code, it should just work, and it gives you the dopamine hit that, it is working.
Yeah.
But security is just not that simple, right? And then a lot of things can happen after that.
Yes.
So for a developer, they need to think about that, and that's why DevSecOps is a concept where it forces developer to actually think a little bit more about security before they push it out.
Right.
And I think that trend is actually catching up, I would say.
Yeah. I think it's a good step for any organization to have something like that.
Absolutely. I think that's the first step organizations should do. Yes. I mean, they've already automated deployments. They've already automated scaling problems. You have Kubernetes, you have everything.
Yeah.
But let's start with security as a basic step. And I think DevSecOps is the first step which should go ahead with it.
Yes. So, even at SquareX, we are trying to solve a lot of browser security problems. So often what happens is I'll discuss a small use case with you.
Sure.
So what happens is that people often receive malicious QR codes.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, most of the controls are on the computer. And then the people often just use their phone to scan those QR codes and end up opening a malicious link on the phone.
Yep.
Yeah. So, these kind of campaigns are becoming, quite common these days.
Yeah.
So what are your views on this, how do you think, attackers are, trying to leverage, phone for moving the flow away?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And I've seen this has grown a lot in the in the last couple of years.
Yes.
And one of the reason I would say is, if you look at mobile as a device, right?
Yeah.
And since we are talking about browsers, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's say you visit an insecure page in a browser.
Yes.
The browser already has a kind of a basic inbuilt security already.
True.
It will tell you, hey, you are visiting an invalid site with an expired certificate, whatever.
Yes.
Right? But in a mobile, if you're opening the same thing in an app, it is the responsibility of the developer
to
implement that.
True,
right?
That's correct.
And one can bypass all of those, right?
Yes.
And that is why the attack surface is kind of shifting, but the base attack surface still remains the browser.
Yes.
But they are exploiting it, shifting it back to mobile, and that's how they are working on it.
Yeah.
This doesn't affect the developers, of course.
Yes.
But this affects, in general, the whole everyone. Right?
And often I think the human factor is one of the biggest cause of any kind of attacks that happen in a company.
Exactly. And I think the QR code became really popular.
Yeah.
with unified payment systems
Yes.
in India.
Yes.
Also QR code to have your tickets.
Yeah, it's
To
everywhere.
enter. It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm picking up my DEFCON badges using QR code.
Yeah.
Right? But who knows what that QR code is?
True.
Right? And since the popularity of QR code has grown over the years,
Yeah.
it becomes a really good attack surface for a scammer or
Yeah.
an attacker to
Yeah.
scam people or attack an organization as well.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So lastly, I want you to like answer a very small question. This is for our younger audiences. So
Sure.
when they are basically starting their career in cybersecurity, and I mean you had like a wonderful journey so far. So what is that one thing you would want them to take care of when they're starting this cybersecurity journey?
Yeah, sure. I think passion is the basic step towards cybersecurity.
Yeah.
If you're passionate about it, that's the first step, and
Yeah.
then you start working towards it. I'm not a computer science student. I am an electronics student, but I was really passionate about what's happening in the cybersecurity world, and that's how I got started.
Right.
So I think as a student, and right now, a lot of courses about cybersecurity is there.
Yeah.
13 years ago, there was really, really small parts of universities who used to offer those courses.
Yes.
So I think you should definitely start off with those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of online content about cybersecurity courses.
Yeah.
You should go through OWASP. OWASP has really good content about cybersecurity specific courses.
Right.
Go through it. Do bug bounties.
Yes.
Try to use hack in the box machines.
Yeah.
Try to do it yourself. Try to figure out issues with companies, report it to them, and in a way earn some money and fame as well on that.
Yeah.
And that's gonna keep you pushing towards
Yes.
the journey.
Yes.
I would say. But yeah, I think the first step is passion, followed by all of this. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming here. It was great talking to you.
It was pleasure as well. Yeah.
Thank you.